Party people, that's the best intro ever. We all know that. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Hancock. My pronouns are she and her. I'm with Ecology, and you are all here because you're awesome, and we're going to talk about frontline employees. The most important thing I need to know from everyone who is here today is, where are you? Are you having an amazing day? Or maybe what level of amazing is your day? Do you have your own handcrafted rhinestone microphone that is 100% not functioning whatsoever? Or am I the only one? And maybe I should open my own Etsy shop for this. I am here to host this might be our first Ecology Presents of 2024. We were a little late on it. That's okay. We're going to make up for it. And before I do that, before I bring out my illustrious guests that you're going to be very excited to hear from, I want to hear from all of you where you're from. I want to hear if you are an Ecology member. And if you are a member, let us know what you love most about your membership to Ecology. I would love to hear that. Rachel is already here. She's a keener. She's in Gun Barrel City, Texas. Jason is here in Hotlanta. I recently was told that I'm not supposed to call Atlanta Hotlanta. So who knows? Emma's here from Chicago. I see Zahid's here. He's one of our Canadians. We have another Canadian joining us today as well. Let us know if you're an Ecology member. What is your favorite part about being in Ecology? If you are not an Ecology member, perhaps you'd like to investigate membership with us, because we are the most fun bunch of internal communicators on the planet. Our website is joinecology.com. There's information there about joining. It is $200 a year or $20 a month, affordable and accessible. We also have a gift of grace membership option that is publicly available. If you are someone who is experiencing job loss, if you're in between jobs right now, this membership will give you 3 months with no charge, because we know that life is messy sometimes and the job market up there is wild. So we've got Central Nebraska here. How could you not have a great day if you're in Central Nebraska? That's amazing. Kate's here from Detroit, one of my favorite cities. I love me some Detroit. We've got California. We've got San Francisco. I don't know who Zahid's talking to, but he's partying today, so that's amazing. Meg's in the Indy airport. All right, now I got to bring on our guests here. Now I got to bring on the guests, because I know they have things to say about this. Hello to Denisa and Chuck. Welcome to the live stream. Chuck, do you want to say something about IND as an airport?
Yes, thank you for keeping this up. As anyone who's traveled through Indianapolis, probably you realized it without recognizing it, but the Indianapolis airport is not just the greatest airport in North America, which it has won awards for. So there are trophies in a case. It is actually the greatest airport in the entire universe. So Meg, congratulations for spending time in the greatest airport in the universe.
There you go. The reason that's a lie is because we don't know about airports in other galaxies. And so
show me the trophies.
Until we've confirmed this.
Right.
Denise is here in Vancouver. Do you want to rank the Vancouver airport in terms of Canadian airports?
I actually do, yeah. And I was going to say,
Okay.
Chuck, those are fighting words because
Ooh,
the Vancouver airport, YVR, actually has won awards for the best airport in North America. So we've got some competition.
I
I
like
mean,
it.
I don't know
I
if you've
I
been
think I
through,
think
but
I think
there's
those are called participation trophies, Denisa.
there's art.
Rude.
There are
Rude.
we've got an aquarium in the airport. You know,
That's
you
just
got
to
to go to your gate.
distract people from the other stuff that's
There's a
not happening.
reason that I intentionally placed the two Canadian people on the top of this live stream on the squares, just so you
Yeah,
can
this is the one time I feel like the token American.
you are the token American on this live stream. So that's cool. Joyce Ann is here from Staten Island. Amazing. Aaron's here from Boston. I was just in Boston not long ago. It's a lovely city. New York. We've got Arizona. Okay, we've got a lot of members here. So Becky loves my microphone. Thanks, Becky. I also love this microphone. I would be happy to do a tutorial on it. Jennifer's a member. Hi, Jennifer. Great to meet people that do what I do. The people really are great in ecology. Haley's a member. She's a keener. Rachel loves all the people. Everyone loves the people. Everyone loves the people. I love it. Oh, Guy's here. He's going to be in both. Will you report back? Guy is local to Indy. He's going to be in the Indianapolis and the Vancouver airports within the next week. So you absolutely are going to judge which is better, and you're going to report back for all of us. So this is going to be the
That
test.
seems fair. That
seems
seems
I
fair.
believe in you, Guy. I believe in you.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, let's get like right into this. I know this is going to be a very lively session for a lot of reasons, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with people. First of all, Chuck and I got to meet Denisa in person last week at PRSA Connect in Hotlanta. Jason tells me only the locals can call it that, so I'll call it Atlanta. She's got her Ecology sticker. But Denisa's been a member for a few months now of Ecology, and when her and I first had our meet and greet, hi, who are you kind of conversation, everything that she was telling me that she was doing at work, that she was like, well, it's not really that big of a deal. Everything that she told me, I was like, this is amazing. The stuff that you're doing is really cool and it's really amazing. And everyone else needs to know about this. And like all internal comms people, I know all of you in the chat are the same. All internal comms people think the work they're doing is not that exciting, or it's not really that groundbreaking, or it's not innovative, whatever. And I guarantee you that a lot of what you're doing is actually groundbreaking and cool and unique and innovative. So that was the start of trying to set up this live stream event for all of you. Then I was thinking, who else do I know that has experience with frontline, deskless, non-salaried, whatever your term of choice is, employees in workplaces, and who has done some creative work with them? And I was thinking and thinking and thinking, and then I'm like, I think I live with someone who might actually have some experience on this. So Chuck Gose, my partner in life and work, is joining us today as well with his experience. So before, let's set the tone here. Little bit of background on Denisa. I'll let have you go first. Where you work now, and just a little bit of the environment so people can get an idea of what the employee environment that you're working with is.
Sure, sounds good. So super happy about this positioning. We've got geographically accurate Canadians on top and the American on the
That's a good
bottom.
point. Yeah, I like that.
But I work for a company called C-SPAN. So C-SPAN is a leader in shipbuilding, ship repair, and marine transportation. We operate on the west coast of Canada, so along the coast of British Columbia. In terms of scale, we've got about 46 to 4,700 employees. About 4,000 of those are in our shipyards business and shipyards organization, and they're distributed among 3 different shipyards, so a couple different locations. The other 6 to 700 are part of the marine business, so they're even more distributed. There are colleagues that are operating our tugs, kind of up and down the inlet, could be part of our ferries business, or a couple other kind of teams in that organization. So different
Very
locations, diverse and disperse, as we like to call it.
Yep.
But it makes for some exciting work and never a dull moment.
And very hands-on manufacturing environment for sure from most of those employees.
Definitely, and we'll get into that.
And union, I imagine too.
Absolutely, yeah. So even just at our Vancouver shipyard, which is one of our three, our larger shipyard, we have, I believe it's around 8 different unions that we work with. So when negotiations take place, it's a poly-party negotiation. And then, these unions typically fall within each of our colleagues' trades. So a lot of different kind of voices, as you can imagine, and yeah, keeps things exciting.
I was going to say that sounds like a lot of fun. 8 different unions to work with. I love it. That's great. I would love to know in the chat if anyone else is in a similar environment, or if you've got a lot of employees that are either unionized or not sitting at desks all day like those of us. I don't know if it's a have to or a get to some days. I also will clarify for our American friends. C-SPAN is not C-SPAN. It's SEA SPAN. Just to clarify, if anyone's wondering that if you're thinking that the government channel makes ships, they don't. It's a different company, just to clarify. Mr. Gose, would you like to give us a little bit of info about what the heck experience you have in similar types of environments?
I would love to, but first I want to go back to something you talked about in your first conversation with Denisa, where you said that the things she thought she was doing wasn't that amazing, but you recognized that they were.
Yeah.
And that is the genesis of why Ecology began almost 10 years ago.
Oh, that's a good point.
Was to highlight and share those exact stories, because internal communicators by name tend to be focused internally inside, don't really get a good chance to see what other orgs are doing. And so these great things happen without others able to see them. And so that's exactly why Ecology began as a podcast back almost
It was almost 10 years
9
ago.
years ago now.
Yeah.
But yeah, my background when I first got into comms, I would say my first manufacturing role was at General Motors, and I flipped the script on the role. The person before me, it was a mixed role of internal and external. They spent about 80% external, 20% internal. I realized the return on my role was best spent spending time internally. So I didn't just flip it to 80 internal and 20. It was probably more 95 to 5. I spent all of my time focused on the internal audiences. And that was when I saw the power of truly engaging that frontline audience, not skipping past managers, not skipping past the salaried workforce, but really focusing on creating opportunities and engagement and content for them. And then ever since then, I've moved along to Rolls-Royce, where I did some of the same things, and then began working in technology. I said I sort of had my feet in both worlds. I had one foot in tech, educating on the value of comms, and one foot in comms, educating on the value of tech. And thankfully now working at First Up as head of community, I get to work with all of our customers who are out there doing what we're talking about today, which is reaching those frontline, or I like to call first line employees, who are often the face of the organization, depending on industries that you're in, especially healthcare and retail. Or if you're in manufacturing in areas like Denisa, that's where the magic happens. That's where the great things happen in the organization, is out on the shop floor. So love being able to speak to customers, speak to communicators like Denisa, and showcase all the great things they're doing. And then again, give ideas around how they can improve and do more to reach that first line, frontline audience.
And Denise, I'm going to ask you the same question. What was your first experience as a first line employee in your life? Chuck, that's for you.
Oh, for me, I thought you was Denisa. Oh, I was a bag boy at Kroger.
Oh, there you go.
Grocery
Grocery store.
Loved it.
Okay.
Loved it. You're never a dull moment.
That's true.
Being a bagger at a grocery store, especially if you're a local small town like Springboro, Ohio. Shout out to Springboro, where I was.
Amazing.
You know everybody in the store. You know everybody's mom and dad that comes in,
and all their
business. Taking people's groceries out to the car. You're bringing carts in. You're bagging groceries. Whatever. It was amazing.
That's funny. I would love to know from people who are joining us, what was your first job as a frontline employee when you were younger? Denisa, do you have anything similar?
Also retail, yeah, but I happened to work at the dollar store.
Amazing.
I was super thrilled about the employee 10% discount.
So great.
It was awesome. That was great. And after that, I worked for quite a few years, actually, in, I guess, at the end of high school and university in a call center. So if you ever ordered Panago pizza, you may have been talking to me, and I may have been taking your order and or getting yelled at.
Yep.
for various different reasons.
Pick your
When
poison.
Well, and
Denisa,
retail usually do.
when Denisa was talking about that 10%, I was thinking, what was the, oh yeah, at Kroger, there was this great perk that you had that if you worked a slightly longer shift on your break, you could go to the salad bar and fill up one of the containers with as much food. As long as it could close, you could take that back to the break room. And as a 17-year-old boy, it does not get any better than that.
That's free food. That's
Yeah.
the win. So my first, I was a cashier at Walmart. So I loved it. I loved every minute of it. If there's anyone here from Walmart, please reach out to me. I still love your company for all its flaws and magical things. Meg was a hostess at TGI Fridays, so that's awesome.
Love it.
Everyone needs to do a retail or hospitality stint. You've got to have one or both because it's just Zahid.
I know we're not getting into. Oh no, Zahid, I'm a pro.
No, also he wouldn't judge.
I don't judge eating habits. Zahid, come on, you know better.
I judge Chuck's eating habits when he goes to the grocery store.
Yeah.
There'd be no judgment from him, so don't worry about that.
This is I know we're not into ideas yet, but this what we're just talking about here is actually one of the ideas I share with First Up customers, which is anytime you're introducing leaders or getting leaders around a content campaign and you want to connect that to the frontline employee. We had a customer in healthcare do this, where we asked their leaders to talk about what was their first job, because nobody's first job was CEO or CHRO or CMO or whatever, or VP or whatever. It was not your first job.
Yeah.
You were all of these things we just talked about. And that creates this instant bond because we found it was one of these healthcare clients to kind of like your Kristen, there was a CHRO, was a cashier at a grocery store that this coworker said they worked there, but also their mom worked at the grocery store. And then they realized they actually knew each other. Their moms knew each other.
That's really funny.
Because they worked at the same grocery store at the same time. So this is the type of stuff you can do that breaks down walls and barriers between leaders and frontline or first line employees and find that common ground.
So there's your first takeaway for the day. If you're looking for some good content, get your leaders to share what their first jobs were, because that's great conversation.
It's like as we're touting off all the the Krogers, the Walmarts, the McDonald's has done amazing campaigns.
Yeah.
On this I forget, are they like it's not the HQ of their first job. I forget what their tagline is.
Wasn't it like America's first job?
Maybe
or something
that's
like that. America's best first job.
They pride themselves knowing that most people aren't going to spend a career there, but what a great first job.
Yep.
Someone to have.
Jennifer packed parts. Packing service parts.
And I would love to know where Jennifer packed parts for a General Motors contractor, because I am a GM kid.
There you go.
I would love to know.
Jason's got the most Georgia first job, weighing boxes of peaches and putting tops on the boxes. That doesn't get more Georgia than that. So that's
I want to know how many peaches slipped out of the box.
Yeah, exactly. Gabriel. Champ Sports. Yeah,
30% off J's. That's a pretty sweet deal.
That's good. That's really good. Dairy Queen.
It's my 10%.
Some Dairy Queen. Kate was in Arby's. Arby's is so great. That is awesome. Guy was on a farm. Sonia was a lifeguard. PetSmart. This is a newspaper, delivering newspapers. That's a great first job. Oh, this is so awesome. Jason's telling you several dozen a day maybe didn't make it onto the that's so good. All right, this is just awesome. But anyway, that's a great content, great conversations for you to have in your workplaces. And I think what this part of our conversation is transitioning into is really much friends, full moon today, is a lot about going back to basics. A lot of these, I like first line employees. That's a good term. We'll use that. A lot of these
frontline feels very military.
I know. And that's why I'm like, is it deskless? What do you say, Denisa?
Hourly employees. So our distinction is hourly and salaried.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So hourly employees, that works too. A lot of the communication tactics are what we might consider back to the basics, or some people, not me, some people would say outdated. And this, one of the first conversations Denisa and I had was about town halls. So Denisa, will you tell the industry about C-SPAN's town halls?
Happy to. So buckle in because it is quite a ride.
It is a ride. It's good.
When we're talking about numbers. But yeah, as you say, Kristen, we're kind of taking things back to basics, and what you'll probably get to hear about is how these traditional tactics and mechanisms of reaching out to people are the things that tend to stick, and tend to be impactful when you're thinking about your hourly employees or frontline employees, however you want to think about them. So for us, one of the main touch points where we have a conversation with the entire workforce, and if you remember correctly, just in our shipyards organization, I'm talking about 4,000 people. Our leadership has committed to doing town halls 3 times a year. But what that means, in order for us to cover our entire workforce, every time we do a town hall, we actually do it 10 different times. So at our Vancouver's shipyard, that's 3 different sessions to cover all of our workforce, both first and second shift. At Vancouver Dry Dock, we do it twice. We do have a kind of an annex building. We do that once. And in Victoria, we do them 3 times. And then for our salaried workforce, we have one large virtual session to kind of bring anybody online from our different locations. So if you do the math, 10 times every time we do a town hall, we've committed to doing them 3 times a year. We actually do 30 individual town hall sessions in a year, which is a ton of work. But on the flip side of that, it actually is an incredible feat. The big focus for us when we do the town halls, we have some prepared remarks that we want to kind of provide updates, but the bulk of the time is really meant for our workforce to give us feedback and ask questions. And every single question that's asked, an action item is logged into a log. Our leadership team gets together on a regular basis and looks at these action items. And the next time we come to talk, we provide updates. Now, there's a couple opportunities that we try to think about in terms of how we can update some of the smaller progress or maybe some of the other items in between the town halls. People don't have to wait a full 4 months to get some updates. But generally speaking, that is kind of the main purpose of our town halls, is that interaction, and you can hear things straight from leadership, and you've got that face time.
What I love, what I loved most about hearing this from Denisa is that I know, because I've worked in organizations who would have this response, and I'm sure many of you have or currently do. Many organizations would look at those numbers and say, well, in order to reach all of our employees, we would need to do 30 town halls a year. So that's just not going to happen. And Denisa and her team and the people, the leadership at C-SPAN said, well, I guess if we want to reach everyone, we're going to have to do 30 town halls a year. So I think that that's another good little second takeaway of flipping how you approach reaching employees from thinking of, instead of, well, that's too much work to reach everyone. It's like, well, if we want to reach everyone, this is how much work we need to put into it. I don't know, Chuck, if you've had any similar, did you do town halls at some of your
We
more
did it at General
manufacturing?
Motors, and it was a very similar approach at the factory that I was at, where we did one for each shift quarterly, but then we did 2 for the salaried employees at the same time because it wasn't as big a deal to pull them off the line.
Mm-hmm.
So we could do 2 as like anchor points because we wanted to communicate to them first before we then went to the employees. So it was 5 a quarter, but then we then had to do 2 on first shift because that's where more people are. So it was really 6 a quarter. So it was 24 a year. It was sort of the same content each time, but I think the opportunity there, and this is one of the, I'm not very good at notes, but this is one note that I scribbled down to talk about today, is for communicators to spend time with employees on an off shift. Because typically when we tend to work, there's a certain percent of your population is working, but not everybody, especially if you're in manufacturing or you're in healthcare and potentially even retail that's not an 8-hour workday. Spend time with employees off shift to see, because their needs are going to be a little bit different. Maybe their needs aren't met as well because the same population isn't there
Like
servicing
off of
them.
your shift? Is that what
Yeah,
you mean?
like meaning like
Okay.
a night shift, overnight, something like that. Spend time with them. That's where I learned the most in the manufacturing world was, I mean, there were times I took very long naps in my office because I was at the factory for 24 hours straight.
Ugh,
Because we can do drive home for 30
right.
minutes and turn around and drive back. And we would do things around those times with those employees. We would do certain giveaways or certain recognition opportunities. And so it's really about committing to the employees. And if communicators are committed, how do we get the leaders committed? And then similarly, if leaders are committed to doing this, we as communicators have to commit to doing it. We can't be that weak link as far as delivering that engagement to those first line employees.
You are the weakest link. Wasn't that a TV show?
It was. And I think they brought it back, unfortunately. I don't know that
Oh,
it
that's too
deserved to
bad.
be brought back.
That's
But I
too
really think it's I applaud you, Denisa, and the team there for committing to that and delivering on that schedule, because it is a lot of work. But I guarantee, I know it's always hard to calculate the ROI of that work, but it pays off. Even if you can't calculate it, it 100% pays off because it's something that people recognize and they appreciate.
Denisa, is it the same people like leading and participating in all of the town halls, or how do you share that workload?
Yes and no. So our CEO has committed to attending 2 out of the 3 town halls of the year. So what that means is for every one of those 10 sessions, he has a presence. Alongside him, we'll usually have the general manager or the lead of that specific shipyard. We always have our safety director there because it's always going to be a topic on the agenda. And then we typically have a spot for any other guests or topics that we might want to cover in any particular series. And then for the third one, instead of our CEO, we typically have our chief operating officer kind of filling that role. So there is a little bit of a shared leadership role when it comes to the town halls.
And what kind of not without getting into the really nitty gritty of the technology, like, is it literally someone up there with a podium and a microphone?
Yeah. So in Vancouver, we actually have our colleagues in the yard build a stage,
Oh,
a
that's
scaffolding
awesome.
stage.
Okay.
And we
Okay.
have our leadership team up there because this one's outdoors. It's typically in one of our covered bays. We bring in audio, so we have an
Do you
audio team.
need rhinestone microphones for, I imagine if you are a shipbuilder, this would really be a coveted item,
So
probably.
my role that I usually play as the town halls are happening, I'm typically a mic runner during the Q&A session. So
Beautiful.
typically I just have, your standard black one, but let's talk because we can
I love
really
it.
amp up the mic situation for Q&As. But I'm just reflecting on what Chuck's saying around, that commitment to spending the time and being there. And it's not necessarily town halls, but at my previous organization, I was there for about 6 years, and it's a global shipping company. So we owned and operated a fleet of vessels. There was a similar commitment from that leadership group where you would have seafarers conferences. So typically, seafarers, live and work on the ships for a certain amount of time and then come offshore for another set amount of time. So they would have, I believe, on a yearly basis, they would have their officers conference. So this would be the higher ranks, and they would also have a ratings conference where they would actually commit to taking people during their off shifts, bringing them together, flying them to a central location, and actually spending a couple of days together talking about the most important kind of topics that need to be covered, whether it's operationally, whether it's what's happening in the industry, whether it's safety, as I mentioned, is always on the agenda. But as long as that commitment is there, and yes, I understand it's easier said than done if you don't have that buy-in right off the bat. But once that's there, it's really up to comms to support that effort, and it's such a golden opportunity to have that direct touch point.
And I did want to call one thing out, Chris. And obviously, we
Mhm.
focused on largely on the manufacturing, which does tend to have large population centers at a factory. But going back to all of our retail experiences, that is not the case.
Mhm.
You can't have leaders, the CEO of Walmart or the CEO of Dollar Store or the CEO of Kroger cannot go around to every single store and do 3 town halls across all shifts all over. So we recognize that. And the same thing with healthcare. That's going to be a challenge in itself. So each industry is going to have its own challenges. The key is, how can we work around and work through those challenges? So there might be some people, like, let's bring in healthcare, for example, and say, oh, we can't pull all of our nurses off at one point in time to do that. Obviously, that's not possible. Okay, well, what can we do?
Mhm.
What does work?
Yep.
Maybe is it technology based? Maybe it's a rotation schedule. Whatever it is, there's always a solution in finding a way. So we focus on some ways where it's very easy to pull populations together. But if you've got a lot of first line employees who might be in a store of 20 or a hospital of a couple thousand, but you've got different units and different centers, there's always a solution out there and how we can engage and keep those first line employees informed.
This is a bit of a comsplaining moment, I think, because if anyone was it PRSA? It was years ago. Chuck and I did a session about comsplaining, and we defined comsplaining as the lies that we tell ourselves in the internal comms industry to create excuses for either not doing the work or not being creative or whatever. And so things like people have short attention spans, or we don't have budget, or we don't have a seat at this. Oh, see, thumbs up to comsplaining. Or we don't have a mythical seat at a magical table that doesn't exist that we think we need to be at. Anyway, this is where I am a more patient person than Chuck. We can agree on that. Yes. Oh, okay. We can. And I do not have patience any longer for comsplaining excuses of reasons why we can't do things. So, to Chuck's point about finding what does work, like what can we do?
It's like it's always my advice to people when they're working with legal and IT, and they're always like, "Oh, legal said no. Oh, IT said no." Well, go to them and be like, "What can you live with?
Right.
What's doable here? There's a common ground. There's a solution."
Also,
same thing with these first line employees. There's always a way to make it happen. It's just going back to that word commitment. What's the commitment the organization's willing to make to connect to what I think is probably the most critical audience in any organization?
Easily. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. When we've done this town hall thing. Would love to hear if other people have questions about the town hall stuff, because I'm happy to pitch them to our experts on the line.
Can I date myself with a great town hall story?
Please do. Please do.
So when I went to General Motors, I saw how they first did the town halls. And this was back. So a lot of factories back then had what they called executive garages. Because back in the heyday of GM, if you're an executive, you parked your car inside a garage. Well, those all went away, and they were just big open spaces in these plants. So they're converted to a meeting space, which worked out quite well. The first one I went to, our plant manager was, no joke, going through flimsies on a projector of charts, just one right after the other. And people were sleeping. Because also in a lot of manufacturing environments, there's not this, you don't necessarily look up to plant leadership. There's sort of this us versus them mentality. So what are you going to do? I'm going to take a nap during the town hall.
Amazing.
So I decided I was going to make town halls that you could not take a nap in. And we converted everything to go digital, which I know sounds obvious now, but it was not back then. And even made my own little music videos of it, where we had electricians who rode around in bicycles. So I recorded videos of them riding around and put Queen's bicycle song over it, because then people wanted to see who was in the videos on
Yes.
it. We did an entire town hall with sock puppets one time.
Is there footage of this somewhere?
Say that again.
Is there footage of this somewhere?
Probably in the GM archive somewhere, maybe. I guess. I don't know.
We got to find this somewhere.
But the key was anything to get people to pay attention.
Yeah.
Anything to get them wondering, what the hell is Chuck and this team going to do next?
Right.
That's all I cared about at that point in time.
People still care about that.
And then it got to be like, well, what's the gimmick next quarter? What's the theme? Which, again, put a lot of onus on us. But I'd much rather take a swing and a miss and have it maybe not land perfectly, but have 90% of your audience awake for it versus a third of them awake watching someone flip through flimsies. So again, it's up to us to engage them. It's not their job to engage with us.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Gabriel's pointing out that there was a LinkedIn thread the other day. Gabriel, this may or may not have been the impetus.
I was going to bring this up. I was gonna let it go, Gabriel.
That's why we were talking about it, because the irony of it is the entire thread was people complaining about how people complain to them. Like it was the irony was magical. Anyway, that's why this came up. Teresa brings up a good point, and then we're gonna close the comsplaining loop. You will never have enough budget. You will never have enough staff. You will never have a fully engaged, 100% engaged workforce. So just lose it for now. Don't expect it. Work with what you can and do the things that you can. So build solutions outside of those Comsplains. Denisa, part of the town hall thing that I know you do, which is important for all employees, but I think particularly important with the employees that we are challenged sometimes with communicating with, is your feedback loop. So when you conduct your town halls, you are answering questions live, yes?
Yes. So while not everything can be kind of resolved live, what doesn't get resolved gets logged into an action tracker. Sometimes questions are quite simple, they can just be addressed right then and there on the spot. But we do have an action tracker, which, like I mentioned, people look at on a regular basis and then report out. So we're still working on implementing quite a few more mechanisms. We're really building. We haven't necessarily. I like to joke that we haven't solved for world peace. We're always kind of
Let us
improving
know when
in
you
small
do,
steps.
because
Yeah,
it's a pressing issue.
yeah. One of the new things that we've rolled out recently with our digital signage strategy, where we've kind of taken over some of the screens or all the screens that are available, brought them on board into one centralized system, that we have a little bit more control and people don't have to run around with physical USBs to update content. It's a lifesaver.
Yep.
But we just have this really simple template of you said we did, kind of taking random, well, not random, but different line items that we can report on. You said you needed X tools in this location. We did. We've provided this many tools in this location. Just
There is
quick
your third takeaway. You said we did. Carry on, Denise. Sorry.
quick updates. You said we did, and just trying to tackle, all the action items that we have in our log so that people get those updates without having to wait the 4 months until the next town hall comes around to hear about them.
I love it. I like the action items and I like that people know to expect that. And it's I think the reason I'm putting words in your mouth, Denisa, that you didn't think it was that groundbreaking is because it is a very simple tactic. Like, here's what you asked or said, and here's what we did as a result of it. It's so very simple and basic, and many places don't do that. So I think that back to basics approach of here's the feedback we gathered, here's what happened as a result of it is super powerful.
I
And it
think
helps
along
build
those
that
lines,
trust.
Yeah.
more powerful is you said, but we can't, or you said, but
Mm.
we couldn't,
Mhm.
Mm.
because it's very easy for leaders at different levels to cherry pick. Oh, yep, here's we can fix this. Let's go run with that. Versus maybe some of the other things that rather say like you asked for this. Unfortunately, we cannot do that. Here's why. Like
Mhm.
that's equally, I think, is important because then people are like, oh well, what happened to all the other stuff that's out there too? So I think it's great. But again, there's that leadership commitment of even addressing the things that, and I'm not talking about some nonsensical stuff that people send in, but like true concerns or true ideas, and whether you can do something with it or not, making sure that there's a resolution
Mhm.
to
Or
that. Because
that
that's
you
again to
to
Denise,
validate it.
that's where that
Mhm.
trust comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of this too goes back to what I call like analog internal comms. And, we've talked about things. Oh, people say print is dead. Print is not dead. The in-person stuff is gone. No, it's not. I mean, ask Denisa, is in-person work gone? Absolutely not. There's no way that anyone who's literally building a ship can work from home. It's not possible. So going back to some of these very high touch, analog, paper posters, whatever that needs to be. Now, Denisa, there's a note that I have in I'll call it an agenda for today that we put together. And I'm
Wait,
going to
there's an
change
agenda?
exactly. Yeah. Denisa
Kidding.
and I had an agenda that I don't think Chuck has looked at. And it's about a person who works for you in accounting. And I don't want to use names because I'll let you decide what we do with this. You can change the names if you want. Can you share the story of this? Because I think it's such a great analog comms example.
Yeah, so we have a wonderful colleague in our accounting department, and it's one of my favorite stories when I think about the history and the legacy of the organization and just how much we've grown. She tells this great story that back in the day, she used to be able to host the holiday party at her house because there was probably around, I would say, 50 employees. And she would host it, and it was her big thing. And
So
she's been
great.
around for, I want to say, maybe 3 decades, right? So she has seen the organization grow and change. And contrast that to the situation and the organization that we are today, where in Vancouver only, not Victoria, but in Vancouver, the only place big enough to host our workforce for our holiday party is the biggest is BC Place. It's basically our stadium. So for the past 2 years, that is where we hosted our holiday party, which super cool brownie points. You get to post about the fact that you get to, party with 4,000, well, not quite 4,000, but of your closest friends. But yeah, we've grown so much. And just because something worked back in the day doesn't mean it's going to work today. But at the same time, it could, maybe just in a different format. So it's definitely something to reflect on.
I lament the loss of holiday parties at companies. I understand why they've gone away, but I really, a GM probably used to have a good holiday party.
We used to, I don't know about, yeah, we used to do stuff for each shift. We would do different holiday parties, and then we would hand out turkeys
Oh,
at each
yes.
shift as
Mm.
well.
My mom worked for a company that did turkeys at Christmas holidays and Easter,
Yeah.
or ham at Easter
Yeah.
holiday. It's very old school. I love it.
It'd be
Um,
really cool, Denisa, if like for that night, if like BC Place was renamed to your coworker, like so and so's house.
oh,
We're going
that
to
would
so
be
and so's house. And
really
so she
cool.
kind of gets to pretend like it's
That's
still hers.
that would be
Yeah.
really good.
Internal banners rolling.
Yeah.
The
Right.
message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe match the decor or something.
They've
That would be
upgraded.
really funny.
Yeah.
I think now I would love to know too if people who are joining us here have in-person events, activities, opportunities for coworkers to get together in a way that isn't their work day, right? Because that's often what gets in the way of things. The other really cool idea that now, Denisa, I don't know if this is an every year thing, but C-SPAN hosted a friends and family open house. Is this an annual thing?
It used to be before the pandemic and before my time. I think it was an annual gathering. Again, the workforce was much smaller back in the day. And then, of course, we had the pandemic where this wasn't feasible for a number of years. But last year was the first year that we brought it back, rebranded it a little bit. So back in the day, it used to be called Family Day. We intentionally rebranded it to an open house just to put the focus on the operations. Before it was a little bit more of like an entertainment thing, turning the yard into, you know, and this is a very Canadian reference and probably a very Vancouver reference, but Playland for better or
Okay.
worse, if
Yep.
like a fair,
Yeah.
right? Entertainment. We're not really focused on the operations as much. We brought it back, much bigger workforce, less physical space for us to be in. The shipyard is much more busy, and there's a lot more ship in the shipyard. So the open house was really just a focus and an opportunity for folks to bring their friends, to bring their family, to really showcase where they work. And hopefully, as a result of that, they can kind of build the pride in the organization that they work for. And it was so cute to see, little kids just being so excited to see the big ships, see the tools, and probably even more excited and even more proud were the parents that were kind of showing them around, to say, this is where I come to work every day and this is what I get to do. So I loved it. I'm currently deep in planning our open house for this year as well. But again, such a great result to see people just so happy
Are
to
we
be
all
in
go?
there.
Are we all going to go? Chuck, I think we should go to the
Well,
open house.
as Denisa was talking about this, I was having these amazing flashbacks from when I was a kid of going to Kings Island. So for those, that's an American amusement park in the great city of Cincinnati, for GM Day. And it was only GM employees and their families could go.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like celebrated. No matter what part of the organization you're in, on the manufacturing floor or salaried employee. But I do remember the open houses that my dad's factory would have. My dad also worked for General Motors. And this is back in like the S10 pickup days for those
Yeah.
that go back to the car world. And seeing that and having, even as a kid, this immense sense of pride of where my dad worked, but also then him having pride of being able to show all those things. And I wonder at times if that's something that organizations have lost sight of. Not C-SPAN, not where Denise
Obviously.
is,
Right.
but other organizations have lost sight of connecting those dots for people of both from the family side and the employee side. And I was thinking back to one of the times when I was at Rolls-Royce, we had a V-22 Osprey, which the V-22 Osprey is the plane that flies like a plane but lands like a helicopter. There were people in this factory and in this facility that had worked on that engine for north of 20 years. Never saw the engine in action until one day this V-22 Osprey landed in the employee parking lot.
That's pretty wild.
Now, it was also the first time I've seen a parking lot vacuumed before, because apparently you have to do that when an aircraft is landing in a parking lot. And even though they vacuumed, there was still gravel and dust flying everywhere. But there were tears in employees' eyes seeing this thing, because they've seen it on the production line. They built their small component that goes into it. But to see this in action, the other amazing thing that happened is then when the crew came off the plane, the aircraft, I should say, not airplane, the aircraft, it was this great out of touch line from a leader talking to the crew.
Oh no.
Because and it wasn't intentional, but it was a great one-liner from the crew. I think it was our COO asked them, like, "Oh, talk to the people here about the quality of Rolls-Royce engines. And what do you think about the quality of Rolls-Royce?" And the pilot was like, "We don't. He's like, we can't think about the quality. As soon as we think about the quality, we're not getting in this plane."
Oh no. Which is the right answer, but like
period. But guess what happened on the factory floor for the next couple quarters? The quality numbers kept climbing.
Oh, fascinating.
Because it was connecting the customer, this pilot, to the work they were doing on the floor. It wasn't a COO or somebody like that telling them why quality is important. It was that, our ultimate customer can't even think about quality. It should not even be on their mind.
Yeah. I'm curious. So this is interesting. I'm going to, do people want to be called out? Should I call people out in the comments? Is this like are we going to be in the safe space here? Because our friend Zahid has a comment that I would like to call out. Here we go. It helps if you work in a cool facility. I can't imagine there'd be the same draw to bring your family to the accounting firm. I don't know. Maybe there is.
I think there is.
I think there is. And here's some ideas. Let's say you work at an accounting firm, or you work at like an HR professional services firm, or like a very boring bureaucratic office space. I guarantee you there's a tie. Does that accounting firm do work for, I don't know, a shipbuilding company? Do they do accounting work for a really cool, like I don't know, Nike? Like there's all kinds of tie-ins there to bring people. Yes, Denisa.
Idea, accounting firm.
There we go.
Mock Oscars where you're opening all the wrong envelopes.
Oh, there you go. Because isn't that KPMG that does that? Isn't that always right?
KPMG, Ernst & Young.
Right.
Yeah.
Like all of these, there's cool stuff happening at your company.
This is that way to like, there's a way. There is a way to make that fun and interesting for people. And whether it is like,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Can we watch the video of this? Yes, I would love to see the video. We're going to watch this video. It's only a minute and a half. We're going to watch a great video about this open house day. All right, here we go.
This is our 2023 open house. Beautiful sunny day in North Van. We've got over 4,500 people here, which is just amazing. I think it's a little bit of a wow factor, right? I mean, we have a lot of stuff to do. We've got photo ops at the front of the ship. We got a little bouncy castle for the kids, and the kids are loving it. We have automated welding with virtual welding. Each of the trades did a setup for what they do every day so the kids could see that and their family could see it. So it was spectacular. It's been 4 years since we've had an open house here at the shipyard. We've probably grown by close to 1,000 people over the last 4 years, and getting through COVID was really, really difficult. And people, I think, felt a little bit disconnected from each other, but also from the product. So I think this was really important to kind of bring the team together, celebrate what people do, and they get to show off where they work and what they do every day to their families. So it's fantastic. What we do right here in North Vancouver, a lot of people drive by and they kind of know that something is happening there, but they don't really get to see what we're doing for the Canadian Navy and for the Canadian Coast Guard every day. It really is great business, makes you feel proud of what you do, and I think the employees are very, very proud of what they do when they can show it off to their families. It's not just the employees. It's all about the employees, their family. They're part of the C-SPAN family. And I hope they feel that when they've gone through the shipyard. It really makes me proud of the folks that we have here and the pride they take in their work.
I want to go to C-SPAN now. I want to work there. So Jason says pride is pride, especially for the families. And I think this is the piece, recognizing that employees have important people in their lives, family, friends, whoever, that they want to show where they work. So what's up, Edward? When I bring my kids to the office, they get excited about the flavors in the Bevy sparkling water machine, right? Like that's whatever. It doesn't have to be like for people you're bringing in, like it's just cool to see where their parent works or where their aunt works or their sibling, whatever. There is a connection to that physical space and a connection to what you do for a living that I think you could do in really creative ways.
To people who don't sit in that cubicle or that office every day, there's a like that, whether it's a child, an aunt, a parent, or whoever, they like to see that space, even if it's something as Edward talked about. There's a great story from, there's a name Jen Panaki, who was the press secretary.
Oh, Jen Psaki, yes.
Jen Psaki, sorry. Yeah, Jen Psaki. And her family got to meet the president and be at the White House. And they all came home and she asked her kids, I think we're probably, I'm going to guess somewhere in that 6 to 9 year old range, it seemed like, what was their favorite part? And they were like, the Sprite.
Yeah.
The fact that they actually got to have Sprite.
This
not
really
meet
good
the president,
Sprite. Yeah.
not be in the White House, not any of that. The fact that they had unlimited Sprite to them. So never discount the experience that others might have that you take for granted.
What's some of the feedback you've had, Denisa, from these open house experiences?
It's been awesome. I mean, we have some formal feedback through a survey, right? But even just conversations and streeters, when you're there and you get to see the excitement, people just love to show off where they work, and there is a lot of pride. We talked a lot about that today, but for us, it's even a through line for our organization. I mean, we've been in the community for a very long time, and we actually have multi-generational colleagues at work across all of our 3 yards, and even in the marine business. We have stories that we try to highlight and showcase because you have a grandparent, a parent, and now I guess the most recent generation that are working in the yard, and it's been such an important background in terms of their family story and family history. So we all spend so much time at work. It's truly magical to kind of have an opportunity to bring those two together. So it's incredible and hopefully inspiring too, right? I mean, it's an industry that needs to continue on going, and experiences like this, I think, really help people see themselves in those roles. And it's also a ton of motivation for people to all pull together to improve the organization and the work that we do, because you want to make it a better place for hopefully the next generation that's coming in, whether they're directly related to you or not.
And speaking of the multi-generational thing, I was thinking of the story that the team at Big Lots told me. So when they launched their employee platform, it's called The Beat, and their CEO did this video, very simple video. Actually, he did it himself in his office. And tip of the cap to the Canadians, they played a little Justin Bieber song in the background during it. Unlicensed, probably, of course.
Probably.
But he didn't spend that time being the CEO. He spent that time introducing himself to the organization and his passion and where he spends his time and his focus. And then he asked everyone in the company to go into the comments and introduce themselves to it. And it was and is content gold. It's some of the stories that Denisa just talked about. Multi-generational people working inside either distribution centers or inside the same retail locations, or people talking about this is their first job, never intending it to be their longtime job, or people that had been there as a third or fourth job down the line, or this is one of many jobs that they have, but it's their favorite job. Like, that's the stuff as communicators, we can't invent those stories. And we also don't know to go look for those types of stories, but creating opportunities for those hourly employees or deskless or whatever you term, an avenue to participate, an avenue to share. Those that want to do it, we have to create avenues for them to participate out there. And I think that organizations that do that, whether it's through town halls or open houses or tech platforms, whatever it is, but allows employees to have a voice at every level of the organization, everybody wins.
Agreed. All right, folks, we've got 5 minutes left. I have a question for Denisa. With so many employees, do you throw a separate party for hourly workers who can't attend a big holiday party due to shift work? Or no?
So that's the holiday party takes place on the weekend, and we don't typically have shifts operating during that time, so folks are able to attend. And that's another fun part with our holiday party. It's our salaried workforce and hourly workforce together.
Oh, good. I like it. I feel like it should be that way.
Yeah.
I also know there are some, I've heard of a few either industrial or manufacturing type of organizations who operate 24/7. Healthcare would be another example of that, where if they do have one holiday party, it alternates years of when it is to hopefully catch different shifts. Or they split it into two different ones too. I know that's an option for people. Demi and I are on the same page. Love in person, especially lavish events that feel like rewards and appreciation. 100%. The only thing I don't like about working on my own from home is that there's no lavish Christmas party. So sometimes I host my own and Chuck and I go for dinner so I can get dressed up for a holiday party. That is
Although
true.
we could do our own potlucks, but it would be us.
It would be a very quiet potluck. 2 dishes. This is wonderful. This is amazing. I hope people got a lot of gems out of today. I know I'm going to have to recap and do a couple of those 3 or 4 things that we called out throughout the hour that we've been together. Thank you, Denisa. Thank you, Chuck, for sharing your wisdom, for being part of this live stream event. I, again, want to thank everyone for joining us today, whether you and I are an Ecology member or not. We'd love having you. If you are not an Ecology member, we would love for you to join our community. We do in-person events. One of our next in-person events is coming up at the end of June. It is Camp Ecology. It is we're doing 2 learning opportunities this year. One of them is in Chicago. Camp Ecology is June 26th. You can find more information on our website. It is a full day event of workshops and learning and even a field trip, because it is unequivocally the most fun professional development event that you have ever been to. I promise you that. So you can go to our website to learn more about that, or to learn about being a member of Ecology. We'd love to have you. Denisa and Chuck, this is amazing. And I am so thrilled that we have all been able to finally find a time to do this. I know schedules were a little bit crazy. If you want to reach out to Denisa or Chuck, they are both on LinkedIn. I am also on LinkedIn. If you are sending connection requests, one of my soapboxes is to please include a little personalized note about how you know the person or why you would like to connect with them. Because I know we all get a lot of connection requests that don't make any sense to us. So enjoy reaching all of your first line, frontline, hourly, deskless, all of the employees. Share all the good news and all the wisdom with all of your colleagues, and have a fantastic rest of your Thursday afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.